There's a saying out there that goes that those who don't know how to do it teach. And in that spirit, today's topic on Coffee Table Talks is how to say no. So I've had a lifetime of trouble saying no, and I've come to understand it in a few ways. I value being helpful. Being asked to do things for folks gives my life purpose and meaning. But like all things, this can have a shadow for me. I overcommit. Important projects of mine get put on hold, and I make mistakes, and eventually I become exhausted and resentful. And I want to be clear, this isn't a kind of how to say no that leads to kind of this tainted self-love, inability to be relational with people. If it doesn't serve you, take off. And, because often ways of being relational are pathologized. People pleaser, for example. Peace to all the people pleasers. I've been accused of this in the past, or codependent. So in many ways, this way of being, of wanting to say yes to people and care for people and do things for people, gets characterized as some sort of problem or some sort of trauma response that should be done away with. And maybe my argument is, but what's the alternative? A bunch of empowered individuals walking around with no relational skills. Well, I think it can be argued that we have found ourselves there. So this is a way to kind of say, or what I want to talk about is a way to say no more relationally and less about stepping into a more individualistic ethic. So, but that's not to say that the ability to care for oneself, not overcommit in ways to lead to resentments doesn't have value or shouldn't be practiced, but it's a dance, it's nuanced, and it's not as black and white as a lot of people might want to make it. So I have 4 ways that have helped me, and I'll share about that. 4 ways to help you maybe stay relational, but also say no, and protect what you value. So one of the questions, the number one is maybe ask yourself the questions: what meaning is being made about saying no, and what's seemingly at risk of saying no? This was an important question for me because it uncovered this idea that if I said no to people, they would stop asking me. And in some ways I would disappear or something. So that was a very important question for me. Number 2 is, what cultural discourses are at play in saying no? There are discourses out there that operate on all genders about our abilities to handle all that's on our plate, about multitasking, about being productive, the call for being productive, and what does it mean to not be productive or step out of that for a little while. So I think it's pretty important to maybe examine what cultural discourses maybe that came out of your family, out of the community you live in now, the country, societies we live in now, what cultural discourses that are at play that might be influencing you, oftentimes invisibly. Number 3, in saying yes, this is an important one for me. This is unlocked some doors for me as well, and that is, in saying yes, what are you saying no to, right? And this was important for me, that every time I said yes, I came to realize I was saying no to something else. And this is an open invitation to be more mindful about the decisions I was making. When I wanted to be helpful or wanted to say yes to somebody, to pause for a moment and say, or think about what might I be saying no to that was important to me, right? And it was very, 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 very helpful. So, and number 4, how can your values guide your decision making? It's hard to say or to know what to say yes to or to know what to say no to if we aren't clear on what's important to us. And then that's when it's more possible for societal standards to operate on us rather than, operating from a place of our own values and preferences and hopes, right? So those are my 4 little tips to help you say no that I practice in my own life, or trying to practice in my own life. Number 1, again, what meaning is being made about saying no? What's at risk of saying no? Number 2, what cultural discourses are at play in saying no, or not saying no, or keeping you to say yes? And number 3, in saying yes, what are you saying no to? And number 4, how can your values guide your decision making? What's important to you? So, continue to drink your coffee. I hope this was helpful. And as always, thanks for watching.